Honourable Member for Calgary-Elbow.
Madam Chair, and it's an honour to rise and speak to Bill 30. And before I go any further, I will just present an amendment here to you, and then we will move on. Yes, sign what's on top.
Go ahead, Honourable Member.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My amendment to Bill 30, an act to protect the health and well-being of working Albertans. Move that Bill 30, an act to protect the health and well-being of working Albertans, be amended in Schedule 1 in the proposed Section 16.5 by striking out "and" at the end of Clause C and adding the following after Clause C, C1, where the employer is a non-profit company or society, and. The bill itself proposes to make workplaces safer for all Albertans. I think that's an important goal, certainly one the Alberta Party supports, but it must include workplaces and will include workplaces that are comprised primarily or entirely of workers in the not-for-profit sector. This amendment seeks to allow some discretion amongst for not-for-profit organizations to pool their resources in a way that allows them to comply with the new legislation, but to do so in a way that doesn't have a very detrimental impact on their finances. As I'm sure most of you know, not-for-profit organizations are rarely funded through grants for administrative costs, and that includes the human resources costs required to comply with the requirements of Bill 30. In addition, not-for-profits having 20 or more volunteers at a work site would now be required to comply with the legislation. Now, I know and have worked with not-for-profits that are certainly rich in people, but less so in finances. This clause, as it stands now before the amendment, would have a disproportionately negative impact on them. It certainly could. So our amendment to Section 16 of Schedule 1 on page 26 of this bill would enable directors of inspection to consider an employer's nonprofit or charitable status, and hence their financial capacity, when working with organizations to build capacity to establish and operate joint work site health and safety committees. It's very important to the Alberta Party and to me personally that workers and volunteers at not-for-profits and charities are protected and are safe. But we are looking for constructive and creative ways that those in government responsible for work health and safety can work with nonprofits. It's very important to work with nonprofits and charities to improve worker and volunteer safety in sustainable ways that work for everyone. Now, that way, workers under some of the unique constraints of not-for-profit and charitable workers that are under some of the unique constraints of nonprofit and charitable organizations and those who work in unusual work environments can enjoy the full protection of this bill, just like workers in commercial workplaces that might have more resources to build human resources capacity to meet the requirements of this bill. We see this amendment as a practical action we can take to make this bill work better for Alberta's nonprofit and charitable organizations and for the people who both work and volunteer for those organizations. Now, we did share this government in advance, this amendment with the government earlier this week. I would hope that they would make a commitment and would be able to support it and make that same commitment to Alberta's tens of thousands of smaller nonprofits and charities who would be protected if this amendment is passed from the unintended consequences. I certainly hope that the consequences, and imagine the consequences would be unintended, of the bill. So the not-for-profits that I deal with, Calgary-Elbow and beyond, are asking for assurances that the administrative parts of this bill not drive them out of business of serving Albertans or impair their ability to serve Albertans, because it would drive up the costs of the administrative costs of doing business for those not-for-profits. And so I ask the government, please, and all members, vote now in favour of a very clearly common sense amendment that would in fact make things better for not-for-profits, for charities, and most importantly for the Albertans that those nonprofits and charities serve. Thank you, Madam Chair.